Boom, 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 everybody. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you are having a great Saturday and an amazing weekend so far. My name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion, where I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades. And I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I'm kind of crazy about. But you know the drill. Hop into the comments, say, hey, where you tuning in from. You know I like this to be an interactive show for sure, so I definitely want to know where you're tuning in from. We are here each and every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, the Facebook group, and the website for the show. So definitely you're able to check out the episode live on any of those channels for sure. Like I said, make sure that, you get plugged into our community, facebook.com/groups/The Color of Motion. Definitely want you to be a part of the family. Like I said, join in on the conversation. We have a lot of great conversations there, share industry news, and just have all around fun. Definitely get plugged in. So don't want you to miss out as well. Also, follow us on our Instagram page, at The Color of Motion. Share some little quick shorts there and trying to grow that channel as well. So definitely there's another avenue there that you can connect with us. But I always encourage everybody to get plugged into the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Don Terrell. And you can check out all the great episodes that we've had so far in 4 years. Like I said, can't believe it's 4 years. We're going on the end of 4 years into 5. So there you're able to check out all the other past great guests that we've had on the show and stop by the studio, plus a lot of other great content. So make sure you share, hit the bell notification, subscribe so that you're notified of when the show goes live and new content goes up on the channel as well. Also, the store is open. Hop on over, pick you up some swag. The holidays are coming around, so you might be able to pick you up something nice there. We have a lot of great gear, hoodies, shirts, mugs, all kinds of stuff. Like I said, I'm currently revamping, not only the website, but for the show, but the store website as well. But like I said, Black Friday's coming up, the holidays are coming up. You're able to pick you up something nice from there. My only request is if you do, shoot a picture of yourself, send it to me so that we can share it on the show like this and share it in the social channels as well. So like I said, I'm super, super excited, about this episode. Like I said, we're closing up into the, last quarter. We're in the last quarter, coming up on the holiday season. Like I said, before you know it, this series and this quarter will be over and we'll be hitting into season 5. Like I said, can't believe 5 years into this show already. And I was looking through a lot of the teasers and, video that I have of past guests and everything. And I'm like, man, I talked to a lot of people, made a lot of friends. So looking forward to sharing teasers as we come up on season 5. So with that, like I said, I think we're ready to get this episode kicked off. I'm super, super excited about this episode and been really looking forward to sitting down and talking with my next guest and friend since we connected for sure. So with that, I think, we can get this show on the road. Hey. Yes, we are back, ready to get this show on the road. Definitely let me know if you are checking it out from LinkedIn. I was trying to check all the channels as we were going, and not sure if it's having an issue with the LinkedIn version. Every streaming on YouTube and Facebook group and the website, but LinkedIn's having an issue for some reason. So let me know if you are having a problem viewing it on LinkedIn. If you are, you can hop over to the website, the Facebook group, and YouTube. We're live and well there. But for some reason, LinkedIn wants to act funky today. But that's okay because we're going to keep rolling on and we are live and ready to go. So I hope, like I said, you are as excited about my next guest and sitting down and really diving into a lot of great topics as I am. And so, without further ado, I think we can get rolling on. My next guest, he's creator and director of The Adventures of Ngoza and Nancha, a freelance 3D artist, modeler, animator, painter, and illustrator, just all around creative. I like those kind of people. He grew up on the outskirts of the capital city, Kampala, on the slopes of a hill called Mutundwe. I'm maybe pronouncing that wrong, and I'm sure he'll let me know. Mutundwe. His early childhood was in the countryside, Masaka, far from the rubbles of the city traffic. While in Uganda, he worked for 3 companies, Infosat, a website developer and artist, at Photo Magic as a photo processor and photographer, and C&MS as an artist and web development instructor. After graduating from secondary school, Makerere College School, A-level, he came to the U.S. in 1996 to complete his degree in art via a scholarship. He graduated in the spring of 1999 and attended Ohio Valley University, Ohio. I'm from Ohio, so we have to talk about that. Montgomery College and George Mason University. He majored in art and visual technology with an emphasis on 3D environment design and modeling, character modeling and animation, vehicle modeling, and simulation. After graduation, he worked as a storyboard artist and FMV animator. We're going to have to ask him FMV, what that means. I'm not exactly sure. 3D artist, environment and level designer, modeling, texturing, and matte painter for several defense contractors and gaming studios. That's a lot of different, he's done a lot of stuff, so we got a lot to talk about. Rival, Interactive, Cornerstone, SAIC, and Camber. From 2016 to 2018, he worked full-time as an art director of Florio, a VR, virtual reality gaming studio based in Washington, D.C., creating VR gaming content to help kids with autism develop social skills in a safe environment. He enjoys, and we're going to talk about that too, because I think, like I said, I've talked about that a lot as far as VR and AR being really good for education. He enjoys his work tremendously and is forever grateful to God for blessing him with a gift he can share with the rest of the world. He's currently working as a freelance artist in the areas of concept design, architectural visualization, 3D modeling and animation, motion capture, matte painting, illustration, and storyboard. Everybody, please help me welcome a very special guest and friend, Mr. Solomon Jagwe. Solomon.
Yes,
That was a long resume. You've done a lot of stuff.
I have. I've been all over. Yes, thank
All
you.
over, brother. But I am
Yeah.
super excited to be able to, like I said, I'm super excited to connect with you, but just super excited that, we're able to come onto the show and really share, kind of, your journey, your thoughts on the industry because there's a lot going on. We were kind of talking about, before the call, a lot going on
Yeah.
in the industry. And you're working freelance now. So, we got a lot to dive into. My first, kind of question is, were you always interested, which I do like to ask because people kind of come from, different backgrounds and they're not always interested or didn't always start like most do when they were kids into art and animation. They maybe came, later on in life to art and animation and what they're doing. Were you always as a young kid interested in art and animation, or did you have an idea of wanting to do something else or thought you might do
Yeah.
something else?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much, Don, for inviting me to spend some time with you so we can talk about art and animation. And I am really grateful that I'm even here, to be alive, especially like we went through the pandemic. A lot of people didn't make it. I'm so grateful
Yeah.
that I have breath to be able to continue doing art. So in regards to my background as well, have I always been interested in doing art? For as long as I can remember, I've always been an artist. Like I've been drawing since I was probably like 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the countryside, deep in the village. So I didn't grow up with a TV. I didn't grow up with a radio. I didn't grow up with sketchbooks and tablets and things like that. Oh,
Yeah.
the outside nature was my canvas. If I needed to draw something, I would scrawl on in the dirt.
Yeah.
If I needed to create a toy, I'll go bend some sticks, tie them with a banana fiber, and create a toy out of it. So that's my start, because it wasn't that someone in like introduced me to art at that age. It was always inside of me to
Yeah.
create. And
Yeah.
my mom tells me that she would watch me sit there for hours just creating something. Yeah, even without, before I got to the city, I was always creating in the village. Yeah.
Creating. That's awesome. So what was it that you saw that initially sparked you like, oh, there's animation, there's this thing, animation, there's this thing, art that people make a living from. What was
Yeah.
it that you kind of saw? Was it a art piece of artwork? Was it something on
Yeah.
animation on TV or the movie or something like that really hooked you?
Yeah. Man, it's like a journey, like from the village to what you're mentioning has been a journey, so I
Mm-hmm.
can't even just say like this is where it's at. But what I can point to is my grandmother, who, like, in the evenings, again, this is me growing up without any technology, but in
Yeah.
the evenings she would sit me down and tell me stories of wildlife. There's a story that we call Wakaima, Wagludene, and Wang, which is like the hair of Bugs Bunny,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you have like the elephant and the leopard and things like that. So she, from a really small, when I was still young, she would tell me these stories, and that's what started me into storytelling. And I always tell people, story is king,
Yeah.
because even without technology, I developed this yearning to continue telling story because my grandmother was so good at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later on, once our family will move to the city, our dad, took us to different boarding schools. And in the boarding schools, you had an opportunity to go to art classes, and we have like teachers like Mrs. Sonko, Mrs. Sitenda, those are teachers that really framed my formal training when it
Yeah.
comes to art. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it that they imparted to you that really got the ball rolling for you,
Yeah.
when you first connected with them? What were they telling you and showing you that really, like I said, kind of hooked you from that point
Yeah.
forward?
So I was fortunate that for the classes that I attended when I was in boarding school, I think very early in the process, my teachers recognized there was something in me, something different. And so they would give me a lot of leeway to experiment. If there was like a topic to draw or paint or something, they would let me do something it wasn't on the piece of paper that was expected. And then I would paint. I would just
Yeah.
draw, I would do things that were outside. So drawing. So the first, I think, really the thing that sparked me sparked the idea of me wanting to be an artist. There was a gentleman I met. It was a classmate of mine in a boarding school called Makonzi. It was what we call the danger zone back in Uganda
Yeah.
during the times of Obote, Militon Obote and Amin. So I was in a boarding school, and this guy used to draw, and he would draw in the sand. The school was, it was on the basin of what used to be a lake. So there was a lot of sand that was left over. It was flat. So I would watch him draw. And he, I think, had lived in Kenya. And in Kenya, you had these missionaries that owned these large estates and farms. And on one of those farms, he had seen a horse. So he kept drawing the horse. And I used to watch him, man. I was like, man, I want to draw that horse desperately. And so he told me that if I gave him half of my lunch every single day, he would teach me how to
Teach you how to
draw the
draw.
horse. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay. And back then, again, this is a boarding school, so they give you posho and beans.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you it's like precious. Like where you have to give up half of it is a big deal. And so I was like, all right, I really wanted to draw the horse. So every day, lunchtime, I'll give him half of my lunch. And in the evenings, we'll go to the
Wow.
sandy area and he would draw the horse. And again, because we weren't drawing on pieces of paper, I could
Yeah.
not study
Take it.
it, you know.
Yeah.
He would kick the sand over the horse so that I have to give him lunch again the next day. So that was my
Wow.
journey into right. So I started developing a photographic memory in that, okay, if this guy is playing me like this, at some point I got tired of giving him my lunch. So I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? Let me memorize what he's drawing, and
And then
let me
just
draw it.
and let me
Yeah,
practice on my own.
absolutely. So I studied him. I saw exactly what he did, and then after a while, he was like, "Hey, are you not gonna give me lunch today?" I said, "No." Now I know how to draw it.
Oh man, that is hilarious. But
So that was the early stages. Yeah.
but see which is why I always find it interesting
Yeah.
talking with my African brothers and sisters, because there are things that just we take for granted, or
Mhm.
are just mainstay. And I'm going to ask you about that because, like I said, you did
Yeah.
come to the States and move over. Were there
Mhm.
things that, like I said, how old were you when you came over to the States?
Probably about 19, going
19.
to,
So
yeah.
were there, like, I mean, when you came over, obviously it was, I guess, a culture shock when you first came over here and everything.
Yeah.
But what did you notice as far as just like access to things? You came over on a
Yeah.
scholarship for school and things that over here we kind of take it for granted, which is, like I said, the conversation I had with we don't worry about so much. I mean, and I know it's not every area in
Yeah.
Africa, but I know there's, more rural areas. There's an issue with power,
Yeah.
and just, infrastructure that's over
Yeah.
there that you have to
Oh
work
man, I got
around and
stories
deal
for you.
with.
Yeah.
you know,
I got stories for you. So when I first came here, I think the first thing that hit me was in Uganda. Like at least where with my family, how we grew up, meat wasn't always like available. It was a luxury. Like eating chicken, you wanted to eat the chicken on Sundays, right?
yeah,
So our chickens were like free range chickens. Like they just go. You
yeah,
open the gate in the morning and they just go wandering, right? So on Sundays in the morning, you had to go chasing that chicken in order to get some meat for break, for lunch, and dinner. And so when I came to the US grocery store, and I saw a row of chickens all prepared, already cut, already, So I'm like, oh man, I don't have to chase after these chickens. So that's one of the culture shocks that came to me. Like, my gosh, these
oh
ones are gonna
man.
be easy picking. Yeah.
Oh man, but it just amazes me. Like I said, I'm so impressed
Yeah.
that you know, for all the challenges and things you have to kind of work around as a creative. I'm thinking from a creative point of view, just
Yeah.
doing your work, especially if you're in a rural area, trying to have access to things, to try to get your vision out, but you still just okay. What do we got to do? We got to work around these issues and just move forward because there's
Yeah.
nothing we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
about it till it gets better. You know,
Yeah.
what are
So I
some of
think
the
Yeah, one of I think the challenges that I faced when I was growing up in Uganda, we always drew on pieces of paper, some kind of sketchbook or whatever.
Yeah.
So when I came to the US, I think that was the first time I was able to actually draw on the computer,
Mm,
and being able to use like a stylus, and like a Wacom one and things like that,
yeah.
to be able to paint without running out of paint, that was like amazing. And so I started doing that, but then I got into a problem where, how you pinch and zoom
Yeah.
on the screen.
Yeah.
I went to my sketchbook and I tried to pinch and zoom, in my sketchbook, and I tried to do Control Z, and it wasn't working. So I got spoiled. I was like, man, I really am used to drawing, like without, you would erase, of course, every now and then, but
Yeah.
it's like doing working with computers kind of messed me up too. Yeah.
It's a lot, like I said, and we're gonna dive. Like I said, technology
Yeah.
even now is moving at such a hyper speed with things that are going on, and we're gonna dive into
Yeah.
some of that as well. Um, you came over on a scholarship, um, and you obviously got a lot of education from a lot of different, schools and things. Now you're starting to see a lot of online schools, and I know it's really dependent on the person. Some people have to have that in person, at a school, brick and mortar learning.
Mhm.
Some people are able to learn online and learn, motivate themselves to do the work and stuff like that. Do you feel like now, um, and did you at the time while you were going through schooling think a degree was really more important than say the work or just the trump of work, and do you feel like now you have to focus so much on getting a degree to get into a studio or start to do creative work?
Yeah. So I had like a different route when it came to getting into the industry, because I remember I always thought that a degree was gonna be the gateway into gaming and animation things, and that's why I came to America, because I thought that I needed to take my degree of I mean, my art to a different degree, and
Yeah.
so I was like, formal training is gonna be it. I'm gonna be able to talk to other creatives and learn from them. And so when I got here, I realized that I actually didn't want to do like fine art per se. I thought
Yeah.
so I came on a scholarship to paint, to do like
Mm.
actual fine
Yeah,
art.
fine art.
But when I was on the plane, it was a Sabina flight from Uganda to, Brussels and into Boston. There was a little screen on the back of the plane. I didn't even know you could watch movies on the back of a plane, and so it was so mind blowing. I was like, my goodness, what is this? So I saw this animation, and I knew it wasn't real, and yet the character was working, is working. So once I got to the school, I asked them, guys, this is what I saw on the plane that really piqued my interest. I want to know what is it. And they said, oh, so it sounds like you're talking about animation. So that the university I went to at the time, they did not have animation. So that's how I transferred from Ohio Valley
Mm.
University
Yeah.
to Montgomery College in Maryland. And once I got there, I talked to a counselor. They explained to me the different, you could do a 4-year degree doing, fine art or computer animation. And they say there's this other degree. It's called an Associate of Applied Science.
Yeah.
It's an accelerated 2-year degree where you just focus on getting into the industry. I was like, that's what I want to do, because I felt like ready to
Yeah.
jump into the industry. And so I did that, and then I interned for a company that was affiliated to the Pentagon. It was a defense contractor. Actually, a classmate of mine. His name is Reynold. I called him Raybomb, and Rinaldo Leon. So he is the one that really got me interested in this company. He got me through the door, got me the internship, and even when I graduated, he said, you got to apply for this job." But what I realized that when I applied for that job, there were 20 other people that applied for that job. Some people had master's degrees in fine art, and I did not in art, right? Master's degrees in art and
Yeah.
masters in fine art. I didn't have a 4-year degree, but what I did is because I had interned for that company, I saw exactly what they needed. I studied what they needed. So I went back, I built my own website, did content that featured exactly what they wanted and then reapply for the job.
Mm.
So for me, it wasn't the degree per se that got me into the door. It was the portfolio that I was able to show. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's an excellent point that you brought up. Uh, I always love bringing him on. And you gotta change your profile pic there, Jeff. I know that's you, but brother, I appreciate you tuning in and stopping by there, Jeff. No one ever asked for my degree, and when they did, it turned them off degree. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, unless you're like going into like education or teaching, I don't
Mhm.
think you really need like masters or bachelors. You know, they're more looking at your work.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, unless you're going into like a teaching position of art, then they're probably going to look at your degree
Yeah.
and the educations that you got. Well, it wasn't an art degree either. So what kind of, and see that's why I love doing the show, because people come, where you start out or where your education just doesn't determine, where you end up, if that's where you want to end up. Like I've
Yeah.
had some people on, their degree is in something totally different than art.
Yeah.
Their degree is in science or math or something
Mhm.
like that, and they're now doing animation. So you never know, and I think it's incumbent on the work that you do. They're really
Yeah.
more focused on, okay, what kind of person are you? Are you a good person to work with? Are you fun and okay to work with? Can we work with
Yeah.
you? Is your portfolio good? And do
Yeah.
you work well with others? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's their thing for sure. There aren't no pretty Jeff, I know you gotta have one profile picture in there that's you. That's good. I love that one though. That was a funny one. Um, so for you, you know, obviously, that might be an easy thing to say, but for you, do you think you would be in a different place had you decided to stay in Uganda and just see the path that art and animation would have led you there, as opposed to coming here, type of thing?
Man, the opportunities were not there at the time. This is 1996, and computers were very rare in my country. I remember the gentleman that first gave me a job. His name was Alnugo Vinji. He was an Indian gentleman, and I remember he hired me to do a mural, to paint a mural for his studio that is on off of Kampala Road. And after I've painted the mural, it drew business. People could see the mural from afar. And then he asked me if I was interested in computers. And I said, absolutely. I'm really curious. And say, so here's the deal. He said, I'm not going to pay you, but I'll give you lunch money and transportation if you can come work for me for free in exchange for me introducing you to computer
Sure.
graphics.
Yeah.
And so he's the one that really sparked that idea that I could even do computer graphics. And I remember it was Windows 3.1, I think, at the
Mhm.
time. We were even using DOS. I remember DOS 6.0, like
Yeah.
QBasic. That's how I got into programming. I was developing websites using Notepad, actually
Holy
typing
mackerel, man.
HTML. So the opportunities were just weren't there, even at the
Yeah.
time. And I think my purpose was like, let me learn as much as I can so that I can actually help my fellow Ugandans and fellow, East Africans. And actually,
Yeah.
that's partly the reason why I even started my YouTube channel, because I remember how much I struggled to find tutorials. Even when I went to George Mason University at the time, like I remember in 2004, there was no YouTube, you know, there was no videos. You couldn't go online and say you could learn something.
Yeah.
The website that we used to go to was called 3dtotal.com.
Yeah. 3D Total. Yeah. I remember
Yeah,
3D
and,
Total.
and
Yep.
the tutorials were text based and images. You had to read
Yeah.
every single thing.
There was no videos back
No,
then.
no, there were no shortcuts. You had to read, reread, and reread, and then
Oh
until you
man.
got the tutorial. Yeah.
But and it's funny that you said that, because my kind of journey into 3D was kind of the same way as yours. I was doing graphic design work,
Yeah.
graphic design work for a company that they built like video systems and like 3D because it was just
Mhm.
starting to become like for TV stations doing 3D graphics and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It was just starting to become big. So they built like turnkey systems and sold some software, 3D software. And I was doing, like I said, at the time was doing graphic design, like some ads and banners and things like that. But they would let me come in to the studio, their business, and sit down on the computers and learn the 3D software because they knew I was interested. And at the
Yeah.
time, they were selling. I don't know if you remember Soft Image.
Oh yeah, I remember
That's
that.
that's what they were selling, and that just
Yeah.
like totally killed my just interest in wanting to learn 3D. I was
Yeah.
excited, but when I sat down in front of the software and saw everything and just saw how complicated it was, it just turned me off. But then they started selling Lightwave, and so that got me back, and it was such an easier tool. But I think it's you made a great point as far as if you do have the opportunity to trade out like services or barter services, it's a great way of
Yes.
learning
Yeah.
something. I think now, we're in a time now where we got a lot of great software like Blender that's free. You
Mhm.
can download it if you really want to learn 3D and animation and stuff. What are your thoughts on this kind of time that we live in? Because we're both from the same kind of, I guess, age range before computers and really kind
Mhm.
of, the computer age and computers and stuff. What do you think of this time that we live in with so much access to the hardware is so much faster, the graphics cards are so much
Yeah.
faster, the
Man,
visuals are so much more real now?
this I said people don't realize how good they have it now. They don't realize how blessed they have it now. And I think I don't know if it's I don't want to say laziness that comes
Mm-hmm.
with it or that some things are taken for granted. But because we struggled, we really learned a different way, right? Because when you wanted to learn, you went after something and you really took advantage of every opportunity that was there. But now, as kids are coming out of college and things are so much more available. And of course, AI is changing everything.
Yeah.
Everything that we worked for to train for years and years and years kind of stripped away. Like I've been a concept artist for a very long time, but the demand for concept artists is just dwindling, as we know, because people feel like I can use AI. Why would I?
Yeah,
Why do I need
generative
you?
AI
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah,
And I want to dive deeper into that because, you know, I started, really talking with a lot of the friends that were coming on, as AI was really starting to explode and, what their thoughts were about it. And, I mean, I know, I met people on both sides of the fence. They love it, yeah, or they hate it, type of thing.
yeah,
And I've always expressed, my thoughts on it. I look at it as a tool like any other tool out there. And how can I use it to aid in my creation process and what I'm
yeah,
doing? So what is your thought on like the impact of what you think AI is really going to do as far as like one
yeah.
your position as an illustrator, storyboard artist. Like you said, you got companies now that are really start trying to figure out how can I use AI, whether it be to cut their
Yeah.
workforce or what.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, like seriously, I've been impacted. Like there, wait, last year, end of last year, it was a job that I lost.
Oh
Because
wow.
the whoever I was working with transitioned to using artificial intelligence, and I have so many friends who have been laid off as a result of that, right? And it's mainly generative AI, right? So I think what people don't understand is that AI has always been here in gaming. Because I
Yeah.
come in from a gaming background, I've been creating content for video games for a long time, and when you play a video game, those characters that you encounter in the corridors, that's AI. And you will actually just call them, those are AI, right? Artificial intelligence, characters.
Yeah.
And some are NPCs, but then there were smarter NPCs and things like that. But then the generative AI came, which is different, where they script all these images and created data sets out of them. And so that has impacted us as artists, as especially the 2D artists, right? If you do like concept art and things like that. Now, there's also AI, which is machine learning, which can be used, for example, in animation. For example, a company like Move.ai, right? They use artificial intelligence to create motion capture out of like just a single video, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Wonder Studio. They use artificial intelligence to get motion capture out of a video that you've shot. And that opens up the door for people who don't have access to the funding
Yeah.
to buy a motion capture suit, right? So those are the benefits of artificial intelligence, is that now it opens up the gate for everyone that has a story that wants to create motion capture. If they have an actor and a performer that wants to say something, AI makes it possible to capture the lip movement of a performer. That's artificial intelligence. But it's the generative AI, I think, that has been the most impactful, that the one that actually replaces you. It's not like with these are the like tools that we use for, with even back in the back end of any software, even Maya and 3ds Max, Motion Builder, you name it. They're using some kind of machine learning,
Yeah.
to help you in one way or another. But when it comes to generative AI, I think that's where the rub is, because you can compete. You could bid for a contract to do an illustration. Someone can come in after you, bid lower, saying they can do the job, and they'll ask them, "Can you do in this style, like this look and feel?" They say, "Yeah, I can," because they know they'll take that as a prompt into Mid Journey, and say, "Create this in the style of Solomon Jagwe. Create this in the style of Dawn." They know they can do that, and that's
Yeah.
the rub, is that someone can take your style, recreate something, and then present it as they have done it,
Yeah.
and that is unfair to the artist. And yeah.
Well, do you think it'll get better? Well, I mean, do you think it's bad? Which I think a lot of it's bad because it's almost like the Wild West now. They don't really have a
Yeah.
lot of laws and things to protect copyrights. I mean, they're just now starting to get into it, but do you think
Yeah.
it'll get better as more stringent laws and copyright protection for artists and creators as it
um
pertains to AI and generative learning
I
and
think it's gonna get to a point where you may not even be able to tell the difference, right? And that's gonna make it even more challenging for artists. So I don't know if it's gonna get better. It might actually get worse, because the platforms are getting so much better. Every other week you see something coming up that's able to generate, this and that, and from nothing almost. And so we as artists, I think we need to learn what we're up against. So I don't believe in being under a rock and staying under there
yeah,
while the storm is going. You need to be aware of what you're up against, and then learn how to harness it. For example,
yeah,
with concept art, there are jobs now. Like when you look on LinkedIn, they're actually looking for concept artists that can use artificial intelligence.
yeah,
You as an artist actually have like a leg up on the competition, because you know things that they don't. You
yeah,
know how, composition, color, because I remember there was an instance where a person was given a task. They told them, and they used artificial intelligence, and they asked them to make a change, and they could not. They got upset, because they say the AI will not be able,
yeah,
does not permit me to do that. You as an artist know how to do that,
yeah.
right? You know how to change. If the fingers are six, you as an artist are able to remove them, and make sure
Yeah,
they have five
AI is just
fingers.
gonna
And
move it somewhere else.
so I think that's where
Yeah,
part of the reason, again, I continue to do tutorials on my YouTube channel is that I test this platform so that I can enlighten other people, that to show them what is possible and what other ways that they can use them to complement
yeah,
their skill as an artist. Yeah.
yeah. And that's why, like I said, I always looked at it, as a tool.
Yeah.
Now I get, and I've always said this, like any tool, there are always going to be people that use the tool the wrong way, use a tool the wrong way, or try to use a tool as a shortcut to an end result. And I think the thing that rubbed me kind of when AI first came out was that people were just jumping on and, putting in anything they want and then coming out
Yeah.
calling themselves an artist. And I'm like,
Yes.
that just didn't
Yeah.
really sit well with me. But
Yeah.
and I've since learned that it's a great tool,
Hmm.
generative AI, but you have to really be good with prompting.
Yeah.
Most people just put in, give me this character, and that's what AI just spits out all kinds of crazy stuff. But a
Yeah.
person that really is really dialing into the specifics of a look or image that they want,
Hmm.
you look at those prompts and they're like
Yeah.
paragraphs. I want this lens taken from this angle at this time of
Yeah.
day. To really get an image that you're looking for. If
Yeah.
you're trying to do it through AI, as a
Yeah. I think
creator.
I think the way I compare it is when photography was at its best, right?
Mm,
Canon, Nikon, they all were coming out with different types of cameras, right?
yeah,
And you had expensive lenses, like you got 100 millimeter, 35 millimeter, all these 1.2, 1.4, whatever. And then cell phones start getting better, right? And that was a rub against the photographers, because you're like, my goodness, anyone with a camera or a cell phone can take a picture now, because you have AI in the phones that's gonna smooth, the faces, gonna improve and all that. So anyone could call themselves a photographer, right?
uh,
And for a long time, there were people who on their face like, man, I would never use a cell phone to shoot a movie or shoot, like, take photos. The cell phones got better and better and better, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
people had to adjust. And now I have friends who are using an iPhone 15 to shoot a film,
film,
So
yeah,
yeah, So no, look, gone are the days when it's just gonna be, and I think that's where the demand is gonna dictate what gets consumed. If the demand for traditional art, for example, continues to be strong, we as artists have a place to go, right?
yeah,
But if the demand changes, where how people are nowadays are consuming content differently, and you can't change it, like short form is now king online in social media. There's no going back. The people's attention span has just gone down and gone
going
down. It's
down
like,
every year. Yeah,
yeah.
it
And
gets
so I
shorter.
think as AI, as that line becomes more blurred, where people can't tell the difference, I think that's where the danger is that for a while, it's going to come to a point where people will just adopt it, and they don't care what it looks like as long as the story is good,
Yeah.
Like I
Well,
read,
but
yeah,
does
go ahead.
that? But which is why I feel like AI will never, as good as AI is, it'll never take place. It'll never replace the human experience.
Hmm. No. So,
Because
yeah,
you can sit. I can
yeah,
sit and use Chat GPT or generative or Mid Journey to spit out artwork or write a script. But if I don't know how the construct of a story is or know
yeah,
the rules of design, what makes good design, that's AI isn't going to teach you that. What
yeah,
makes that's you were saying about there's people that are making films with iPhone. Yeah, anybody can make a film, but a true director, a true storyteller knows how to use the tool
yeah,
that he has to tell the story that he wants to tell. So it's
yeah,
not the tool more so
yeah,
than it is the person that's using the tool of what you're going to get out of it. That's
yeah.
my
And
thought.
also, and that's true, but also there's also the changing of the landscape in terms of consumption of content.
Yeah,
There was a time when cable companies ruled when it came to like providing entertainment.
yeah,
People cut the cord and they decided, we're gonna use our phones for entertainment. They had to adapt. I mean, you really had to think of a way to evolve as a
oh yeah,
company,
yeah,
like seriously. So even as content, the whole thing that I see is that we are storytellers. We are trying to build audiences, and we're trying to feed them something that we feel they deserve to know or they should experience, right? And if the people that are consuming the content change their way of the way they are consuming it, or if they decide that this is okay, I think that's going to drive
yeah,
where AI is used,
yeah,
because people, if a movie comes out and it wins an Oscar and they use artificial intelligence, there's going to be like a, a stamp of approval
Oh
for people
yeah.
to go out,
Every company's going to be, what story can we put out with AI?
yeah,
Rushing to put out something.
yeah. And I mean, like
Uh,
recently, I saw James Cameron becoming, joining the board of an AI company. That
mm,
has a huge impact on people that look up to James Cameron. I'm like, okay, if James Cameron is really thinking of investing in AI, because I got into motion capture because of James Cameron,
yeah,
because of Avatar. I watched the journey that he was on. It took him 10 years to make the first Avatar,
yeah,
and it was because the technology just wasn't there. And then
yeah,
he had to invent some cameras. And then as the motion capture suits got better, then they ramped up the
yeah,
production of it. And even with the Way of the Water, Avatar, the Way of the Water, they had to invent new ways of
yeah,
shooting mock-up underwater,
yeah.
and so, anyway, that's where I see the technology going
Well,
as it gets better and better.
yeah, and I think, and I'm not sure who said it, but I think technology pushes art and art pushes
Mhm.
technology. I think they push each other to make each other better. That's just the
Yeah,
natural order of technology and how things progress. As like it's, and I was saying this before, and we mentioned it a minute ago. You have to adapt to the new tools that are coming out. That's just the
yeah,
nature of technology and moving forward. 2D animators had to adapt when 3D animation came onto the scene. So it's
mhm,
just, there's this, and I always said it, there's this awkward step that we have to
yeah,
take as people when we go from old technology to something totally new that's never
yeah,
been seen before. This is the same with the horse and buggy when automobiles came
yeah,
out. I mean, there was
yeah,
this step when, okay, we're moving
yeah,
into the future. How can I
yeah,
use this and leverage this for my everyday life and the things that I do? And there's always going to be those ones that are kind of hesitant about taking that step, but it's not going anywhere, so they have to
yeah,
adapt or they get left behind. So,
yeah,
I think it's interesting, and I don't think kids today kind of get that because they're born into this world of
yeah,
technology and they just
yeah,
expect things to just be
yeah,
at their fingertips and just I can push, just it's instant. It's instant.
yeah.
You
Like
know?
seriously, when I came from Uganda, had I retained that mentality that um, we've been without all these technologies, so I can't adopt using a Wacom. It's
Yeah.
not traditional. That's not true painting. Digital art is not true art. I wouldn't have advanced to the place where I am today. The opportunity
Yeah.
I would have missed out on a lot of the opportunities. And I wouldn't have learned how to do certain things. There's a place in Uganda. It's called Katwe. And in that place, you have these artisans. They will get any piece of metal and they'll weld it into something. They'll
Mm,
take it, and they can make a saucepan out of it. They'll make a spoon out of it. They've learned how to repurpose. And I think for me, I remember as a kid, I used to walk all the way to that place and study these guys. They inspired me to be like to improvise. Like when you're faced with luck, and I see right now AI creating a lack, in terms of skill sets and things like that, and opportunity, a lack of opportunity. I've learned to improvise. So my encouragement to people out there, like if you're faced with this the situation that we're in right now, might be a good idea to even start a YouTube channel. Think of how you can grow an audience, your own audience, and create your own IP, so you
yeah.
can actually start building something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it segues into kind of my own thought. But again, to everybody just jumping in, we're having having an amazing conversation and a fun conversation with our friend Solomon here. Let me get some of these. Mr. Jeff, we all from the same era. If it wasn't for my friends at work, I'd never have learned anything on computers. Yeah, like I said, I think we all come from, which is again why I find these conversations so interesting, is because we all come from everybody's journey is different into how they learn and how they came. I don't know if you're connected with him. He's been on the show. He was like my third guest. I gotta have him back on. But Andre Rodriguez, Dre, if you're watching this, you always inspire me, brother. He learned in prison. he
Mhm.
learned 3D and got introduced to 3D in prison. So everybody's journey is just different
Yeah.
and fascinating. Where the things they had to do to adapt and kind
Yeah.
of learn these new things that's coming out. And we all know, AI is a genie that's just not going back in the bottle. So you're going to have to figure out how to use it to your advantage. But do you feel like now is a great time for creators to develop their own IPs because we have all these
Yeah.
channels available to us? And do you
Yeah.
think that more creators are thinking along those lines of, okay, maybe I need to focus on my own things and try and kind of
Yeah.
cut the
So
middleman out of going
yeah.
directly to my audience?
So I have a friend called Jeff Riviera. He's an amazing artist and animator as well, and he's locked in when it comes to people in Hollywood. He has a lot of content, and he had this like organization where he would invite people during the pandemic to speak to us as Black creatives, and he'll bring in people from different directors, actors from Hollywood, and he has been like his focus has been like, guys, you really don't have to wait for people for you to create a story for yourself. YouTube, you have Instagram, you have Facebook,
Yeah.
and actually people don't realize that on Facebook there's an untapped market right now, because I remember I have like about 74,000 followers on my Facebook page. It opened my eyes up when I started making money on Facebook. I didn't realize there were things like in-stream ads, ads on Reels, like
Mm,
bonus program.
yep.
It was so much that in there they were, but it took me putting in the effort though, right?
Yeah.
Had I not started my Facebook page, Facebook wouldn't be paying attention to the work that I was done, seeing the consistency that I was putting in to be able to invite me into some of those programs. And that's where original IP comes in. Is that once you build an audience, then you can find what they love. And once you find what they love, then you can build a story around it, because audiences will go, they will flee if they see that you're not serving them, right? So once you have that audience, build original IP so that you're not beholden to like a full-time job that
Yeah.
requires, they will fire
Yeah.
you if they feel like they no longer need
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. No, I totally agree. And obviously, and it was something that I've always preached as far as, especially in this time that we live in a great time
Yeah.
as a content creator, because like I
Yeah.
said, we do have all these channels that weren't available to us. So if you are a filmmaker, there's YouTube. If you are an artist, there's Instagram. If you're, or if you are a business that wants to connect with professional companies, there's LinkedIn. There's all these channels. Your own website, driving people to your own website and building
Yeah.
your own community, which is, I guess, what they always say you should be doing is to get people into your own ecosystem. But obviously, cutting out this kind of middleman as far as, I don't have to go. It'd be nice to work for Disney. It'd be nice to work for Pixar and, those kind of studios. But if you're a person that has a story, I can connect with other animators, create my story and post it on YouTube and build a following and monetize it.
Yeah.
There are people on there. Mr. Beast, he's the biggest YouTuber out there who's learned to monetize and make millions off of his
Yeah.
YouTube channel, but he's found his community.
Yeah.
And trust me, if they see that you found your community, and they want to tap into your community, they're going to
Yes.
come knocking on your door trying to buy your channel or,
Yeah.
hire you. So, use these, things that we've got available, these
Yeah.
tools.
And like for recently, I mean, on my YouTube channel, once I got to about 340,000 subscribers,
Hmm.
a new opportunity opened up. YouTube contacted me and they said, "Oh, we have this opportunity called Brand Connect." You know, so when you're not yet to that level, you don't know
No,
the opportunities. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They
So
they totally serve the higher ups way
I know,
different.
right? Yeah, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you mean?" And so what they do with Brand Connect is they even create a media kit for you for your
Wow.
YouTube channel that then they serve to brands that are interested in you. So when they come in, they know exactly the demographic that you have, the number of views, your most viewed videos and things that you don't have.
Yeah.
So they're cutting out the middleman. There was a time when you had to go to a manager, to be able to do. Now with Brand Connect, YouTube is connecting you to the brands
Brands,
directly.
yeah,
Yeah,
directly, yeah. Boy,
yeah.
I tell you, man, that's why I'm trying to get in the door
Play.
because I know there's a whole lot of stuff they offer, the
It's a
big
whole
time.
world, man. It's a whole world
Yeah,
out there.
I walked through it like, wow, I didn't see this
Yeah.
back here.
No, no,
So,
no. I
what
get
were the
access.
things? What were the things that really helped your channel to grow? When you
Yeah.
decided to, okay, I'm going to focus on my YouTube channel and really getting it to grow? What were some of the
So
things that you put into place and that you did?
yes. So the way the journey started actually was in 2020, right? Things had been closed down, schools have been closed, people were, in their homes. My wife sat me down at the time. In 2020, I had 3,000 subscribers, and my wife tells me, "Man, do you realize the gold mine that you have in terms of experience and the kind of content that you are capable of creating?" And she told me, "Why don't you try putting in some extra time in it?" I was like, "Be consistent. Just do the work and see if what it turns out." So I was like, okay. So I looked around and I noticed that people were searching for how to do this, how to animate in Blender, how to do something in the Unreal Engine. How there were a lot of how do I do this, during the pandemic. I'm like, people are at home, they're trying, and especially with the virtual, production coming into play and
Yeah.
remote work, people were trying to find a way. How can I work from home? So I started creating tutorials. I like, let me give back because I know how long it had taken me to learn how to do these things. Like, let me start creating tutorials so I can show people how easy it is. Even if you're home, you can create your own short film, and then maybe that will earn you like a footstep through the door, like a door opening. And so it took about 3 months, and I actually missed the window because they changed the way you were supposed to monetize at the time. I had missed it. I was like, oh my goodness, you mean I could have been monetized way back in time? Because I'd been sitting on that YouTube channel for a long time. I opened my YouTube channel in 2009, I believe.
Yeah.
And so I had done nothing until 2020, and maybe just throwing in a video here and there. But once I became intentional in 2020, and I knew people were at home, I was like, okay, the audience is there. It started picking up. It took 3 months before I became monetized, before I could even earn $100
Mm-hmm.
from it. Once we got the first 100, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, Yeah, it was so awesome. And then 2023, around September, I just finished being part of the Epic Games Animation Fellowship. These are
Yeah.
like fellowships that usually people just die for to join.
Yeah.
And actually, you used to get paid, I think, like $10,000 to be part of it. So in 2023, we were invited into the Animation Fellowship. After the fellowship, I hadn't done any like real work for almost 3 weeks. We were just intensely animating and trying to create these cinematics. October, I was on my way to LA at the premiere of another film that I'd helped direct using MetaHumans. That's when I saw something happening. I had put up a video using Wonder Studio. It was just like a dancing robot. It blew up.
Wonder
It went
Studio. Well,
viral.
what's one for people because I don't know. What's Wonder
Yeah,
Studio?
so Wonder Studio is like an AI platform that enables you to take footage and replace an actor with a digital character, like a robot, or even
Okay, yeah,
a
I
person.
have heard
Yeah,
of it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I've had
So
saw
I
some earlier.
replaced, yeah, so I replaced the robot. It was a dancing, video. So I replaced that, and that blew up. And when I saw that, I was like, let me try another video. I did another one. It went viral. So I have like 20 videos that have gone viral, over 1 million views. And I think like three, like 20 million views or something like that. That's when my eyes were open that, oh my goodness, I think I have a new community. So in October of 2023, I had like 25,000 subscribers. At that point in time, most of the people that were subscribed to me were filmmakers. They were into creating films using the Unreal Engine, Maya, you name it.
Yeah.
But then October, my channel completely changed. It jumped from 25 to 50,000 subscribers. And imagine this. It's almost like you see, it's an election year, so this maybe reference might make sense. Imagine Arizona before all the people moved in from California. It was
Yeah.
a red state,
Yeah.
and when people moved in from California, it became a purple state, right? And
Yeah.
now the governors and the government has to decide how do we serve this community, right? Because they have different aspirations. So that's what happened to my channel, is that I got a whole new bunch of friends, people
Mm-hmm.
who love these robots, and I had to pivot. I had to find a way of how do I take this new audience and still provide content that is related to the Unreal Engine. So I started rewriting some of the scripts that I was doing. I started creating some things that were related to robotics, you know, and that's when once you find your audience and you know what the audience wants, in order to retain that audience, you have to listen. And I had to listen to them because every now and then I would put in a video and it wouldn't do so well. And then I put in a video that has robotics related things and it would
Mm-hmm.
blow up. I'm like, okay,
Mm.
my goodness, what do I do? Because I love the other community.
Yeah. So did you separate them, or did you try and incorporate Unreal aspects into the robotics so that you could just keep both audiences?
Yeah. So this is the beauty of when YouTube knows that you're starting to grow.
Yeah.
Because once I went from 25,000 to 50,000, I got an invite to a YouTube event in Atlanta. I was so
Well,
happy
I
to
gotta work
see.
harder, man. They're just
I
they're
know,
just
like,
serving y'all of all kinds of little
yeah,
goodies.
it was really, it's one of those exclusive, like, invite only things. So I went to that event and I'm so glad I went, and I'm grateful to YouTube for sending me there because they helped me. Because they asked me, you could stand up because it wasn't a big group. You
Yeah.
could stand up, ask a question, and they actually give you. These are people from YouTube. They give you
YouTube give
feedback.
you an answer to your
Yeah.
question.
So
Okay.
I stood up and I said, guys, my channel has just blown up. It went from I used short form because YouTube was pushing short form at the time. They were competing with TikTok, and I was doing more short form. And I said, now my long form is not doing as well as my short form. The short form has brought in 25,000 new subscribers. I don't know what to do with this new audience. Help me. And then they said, okay, this is what you need to do. It's a 70-20-10 model. 70 of your percent of your content should cater for your previous audience. 20% should cater for your new audience. 10% experiment to see the crossover. And that changed the way I approach my YouTube channel because I was ready to separate my channel and create a
Yeah.
totally different channel for the Unreal Engine and other tutorials and just do this one. But once they gave me that insight, I went home, started doing new scripts for the way I was approaching it. So I said, okay, if I'm gonna do robots, let me actually do a tutorial on how to do motion capture with robots fighting in the Unreal Engine, and that did really well.
So, geez, I lost my train. So you were doing like Unreal tutorials, how to use
Mhm.
Unreal, and
Yes,
get actually diving into the software and doing like
yes,
just short
yeah.
stuff. So were you doing strictly shorts, or were you mixing it with both short form and long form type of
So
content for
the
your channel?
the tutorials were by nature gonna be long form.
Long form,
You- Yeah, it's only now actually that they've introduced 3 minute shorts
yeah,
where you could actually, yeah, before you couldn't do that. It had to be like a minute or
yeah,
less.
under a minute or something, yeah, something like
Yeah,
that,
so
yeah,
the long form videos, and when I created short films, they're always gonna be long form because you want to do something 2 to 3 minutes long.
yeah.
So that's where, yeah. So the tutorials were long form, and then
So
I'll
when you say
take.
long form, how long were your long forms? 3 minutes, or were they into like 10, 20 minute, 15 minutes,
Well, in
that
order
type
to,
of
because I
thing?
was trying to, yeah, I was trying to maximize earning from YouTube, and they will tell you that if anything above 9 minutes is going to have more ad space. Companies typically want you to have enough space for them to put multiple ads in
Yeah.
there. So 9 minutes was like the magic number, 9 minutes and above. So I tried to keep it there. And then for videos, there will be some videos that were just quick ones. I had like a format. I said, when I am extremely busy, when I am doing my day job, and I can't do a full, 20-30 minute tutorial, I need to be able to kick out these short videos. So those ones will be a minute and 20 seconds, a minute 30, 3 minutes. Those will be like just showcase pieces,
Yeah.
right? And those are still considered long form because they are not less than a minute,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and those ones will do well because people will then ask me, "Hey, could you show us how you did that?" And then I'll do a tutorial on how. So my approach is always do a showcase first, and then do a follow up of how that showcase was made. Create a short film first, and then create the behind the scenes of how that short film was made. Yeah.
For sure. No. Great advice. I hope everybody is kind of soaking this in like I am. If you're wanting to, grow your YouTube channel and get the plaque and get those special invites that they're not obviously sending to regular folks. But hey, the perks of getting your plaque for sure. So when
Yeah.
you were posting, were you posting a video every day, or what was your schedule like as
Yeah.
far as
So
consistency to get to that number?
yeah. So I've been balancing creating content for the adventures of Nkosa and Nancha. And in some cases, companies approach me to do like a stint, where they need help on a project. And so
Yeah,
they'll bring me on and as an expert. And so there are times when I can't really do daily, like every 3 days. But my base, schedule has been every 2 to 3 days, I create a new video, right? If I create something that is fun, I might be able to get 3 shots out of it. So I'm always thinking ahead.
yeah,
Like as I'm creating these videos, that what area can I actually render at 4K and then crop it at 1080 by 1920 to create a shot out of it, so that I don't. And then I schedule that.
yeah.
I'm always thinking like if this week is gonna be super hectic, the next 2 weeks I'm not gonna be working. You will think that I'm actually actively posting on my YouTube, but I've scheduled it.
Scheduled it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah,
that's
that's
the
the key.
big thing is
Yeah.
automation and scheduling, taking
Yeah.
advantage of, especially if you're a solo creator and you don't
Yes.
have a team that's posting things for you.
Yeah.
Everybody, like I said, just jumping in. We've been having an amazing conversation with my friend Solomon Jagwe here. Make sure that you hop into the comments and, tell us where you're tuning in from and say hello. Mr. Jeff, you agree with Jagwe. As much as I hate to admit it, technology has made me a better artist and I'm more accessible and valuable to studios now. Obviously, the more skills you learn, the more valuable you are to any business that's going to hire you. That's why I say, you may not completely use it, but learn how you can leverage AI and some of the new technology to,
Yeah.
like I said, aid in your creation and what you can
Yeah.
do. And I guess,
Yeah.
like I said, not everybody's like that. Some people, are just really hesitant to
Yeah.
stepping, into the
Actually,
future.
I have something to show you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
speaking of technology, right? So when there was my first film was called the life of a gorilla called I think Wagaluwango, right? And I remember wanting to do like facial mock-up for my character. And at the time, I tried to get a motion capture suit, and it was about $50,000. It was called
Woo.
Measureun. The company was called Measureun from Canada. And so the the gloves plus the mock all together were about $50,000. And so I could not even afford that. So I was like, what can I do to capture the, because I'd seen in Hollywood what they were using. So I borrowed my wife's helmet, right? So this is it right here.
Yeah,
And at the back here, I have the weights,
yeah,
to counterbalance, and
yeah,
then I put this is my guitar stand right here. So I took it off of my guitar stand and then put this cell phone holder.
yeah.
And so that became my head mounted camera rig that I was able to use to improvise. So you have to
Amazing.
adapt. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be able to adapt and improvise when it comes to this industry, man.
Oh man, amazing! And I hope, like I said, I hope that youngsters and anybody watching this really picks up on that. You have to
Yeah.
adapt and just figure out, okay, well, what can I
Yeah.
do to make this work, or to, hey, I don't have I'm a filmmaker. I don't have a dolly, but
Yeah.
I got a chair. I can sit in and
Yeah.
push myself along the dolly, that type of
Yeah.
thing. And it's funny. I love watching. And if you're a YouTuber, which I guess everybody in the industry, that's what they're searching for. They're searching for these creative solutions to problems that they have, which is why how-to videos do really well, because people are just they want to learn and they want to know easy ways. And there's a channel I really like watching. Film Riot is their channel, and they're a
Mhm.
bunch of VFX people and motion people, and they do
Yeah.
tutorials on cameras and video gear and how they did this effect or that effect. And so they're always showing like these just little hacks
Yeah.
of, okay, well, we don't have this camera, but we want this effect. Maybe I could
Yeah.
put the camera in a chair and just push the chair along. Those
Yeah.
type of things are just things that, as a creator, you got to know, like you said, your audience and what the people are really looking for. And I think those type of
Yeah.
how to, which I think is why YouTube does so well, because people
Yeah.
now they want to learn how to do a specific thing.
Yeah, and also you have to study the industry. Like I knew, for example, when I was trying to figure out what other content I could possibly create, right? I knew Tesla was working on robots,
Mm-hmm.
but I also knew the Tesla truck was coming out and things like that. So I was like, how can I actually take advantage of that? Because I'm always paying attention to how the industry, what's happening in the industry. And back when I was growing up in Uganda, when we didn't have toys, we used to make
Yeah.
our own cars, right?
Wow.
So this one, and even the wheels actually rotate, just like that. And so if I don't have a toy, I would actually make this. I was like, this would actually make good content. So what I did is I made a Cybertruck out of the same material,
Mm,
right? So it's like study the industry, see what's happening, and
yeah.
find a way of tailoring your content to something like that. Because
Yeah.
YouTube encouraged us to. They told us that, hey guys, we are gonna be promoting streaming vertical, right? So do your best to stream vertical. And I did not understand the value of that because they explained it to us. They said that when you stream vertical, right, you can stream horizontal like this,
Yeah. Which
but
is
when you
how I'm
stream,
streaming.
yeah,
Yeah.
but when you stream vertical, the video gets put in the shorts feed.
Yeah.
And that's where all the traffic is right now. And so
Yeah.
chances are that people are going to be. So when I did this Cybertruck, I streamed live vertical and I saw a different kind of like traffic coming in. And I even got new subscribers out of
Yeah.
that.
Have
So
have they have they rolled that out publicly yet?
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
so you're now able
yeah,
to stream vertically. Because
yes,
like I said, which I'm kind of still trying to figure out, and maybe that might be something I think about, moving forward into season 5 for the show, because that was the whole thing about, not streaming into Instagram. I could stream
yeah,
into Instagram on the desktop, it'll show horizontally, but on the phone,
right,
it'll show
yeah,
vertically. Even though, and so I have to be, but because I'm
yeah,
streaming out horizontally, I have to be mindful of where I'm at,
yeah,
even though I could potentially just straight stream out vertically, but then I'm not
yeah,
streaming out horizontally. And so
yeah,
on all the other platforms where it's a horizontal, it'll be black bars on, the sides of them,
mhm,
because it's not, vertical. But I do realize that, I'm doing both, streaming out both horizontally and then creating vertical videos out of the horizontal videos to maximize, because I still like the
yeah,
horizontal format of
yeah,
editing. So, but like I said, I'm trying to figure out this thing of streaming, kind of horizontally or vertically, because I know it is a big thing, and shorts are big and
yeah.
shorts are done
No,
vertically.
I highly encourage you to do it because again, the packs of once you get into the door, they sent me to a boot camp, yeah, for like 3 weeks, and they taught us how to do this. So you're getting like these insights that you normally wouldn't get like out here.
Oh man.
And
Well, I'm wondering
yeah,
how. Well, I'm gonna have to experiment with that because I don't stream directly into my. I use Restream
yeah,
that streams simultaneously out to all my channels, but
yeah.
through the software I use to do the show,
Oh wait,
Ecamm,
so yeah, you know
I
what you could
can
do
create
is
a horizontal.
yeah,
I can stream out horizontally. You know,
yeah.
I was just curious. Like I said,
With OBS, you can actually stream vertical
yeah,
because they
I
have
can
like a
stream
vertical
vertical
camera.
with Ecamm as
Yeah,
well. I just never really
yeah,
tried it because I've always,
yeah,
wanted long. I've always, I did the editing and stuff, so I was always wanting the horizontal view,
yeah.
and just
So
would make.
from the belly of the beast,
I'm gonna listen to you.
but
Hey, I learned too, people. I am here to learn too.
yeah, yeah,
So I
stream
want to be one
vertical.
of those
Yeah.
ones that they send the email to. Hey, we're having this special function here.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so because I think with the shorts program, they even have like like a invite only Discord channel
Yeah,
where we
yeah,
are. Yeah, so,
yeah. I know y'all get
it's
special
a
perks.
blessing. It's a blessing. Yeah, it is a blessing.
What is that? What is American Express's tagline? It pays to become a member
Yeah,
because you get perks when you're a member.
yeah, and I think
So,
that for me, putting in the effort,
yeah,
that's why I encourage people, please, please, whatever you do, be consistent.
consistent. Yeah,
And you may think your video is not doing well today, but you will look down the road like 6 months from now, that video will change your life. Because I posted a video in October of 2023. At the beginning of the year, it blew up. It's the one of the videos that is actually like 20 million views. But it had like a flat line at the beginning. Nothing was happening. And then all of a sudden it just took off. So the video that you're making now, the YouTube video that you're making now, purpose for it to be like successful down the road. Don't try to get instant success now when it comes to YouTube videos.
yeah, and that was in I always tell this to podcasters or you bloggers, video people, whatever it is. Just be consistent in the work. So that was my main thing
Yeah.
when I did this show. Was okay when I started it. My main thing was I wanted to be consistent, and I
Yeah.
knew that if I was consistent, I would just naturally get better along the way, or learn
Yeah.
to get better along the way, and just better. So I try not to get caught up in the numbers, but everybody just jumping in, please make sure if you didn't catch all of this stuff that's all this gold that Solomon shared about YouTube, if you're looking to really grow your YouTube, please go back and rewatch this section. And I may just post a short on this myself,
Yeah.
this little portion
Yeah.
myself, because it's
Yeah.
gold. And it really shows you, like you said, if you put in the effort, how much more success you'll get. And my thing is just driving home the point of you're talking directly to your audience. You're not going through a company. You're not
Yep.
going through a agent or anything like that. You're talking directly to your audience, and you have access directly to your audience. And trust me, like they say, you really only need 1,000 good loyal fans, and you can make a great living, with them. And if you provide value, that's a key too.
Yes.
You got to be able to provide
Oh my
value.
gosh.
You
That
know,
that is one of the most important things when it comes to YouTube channels is that when people see that you contribute to their
yeah,
livelihoods, and you encourage them, you speak to them, and you build them up, that's how you grow a community.
yeah,
People don't want to feel like you're just there to take from them.
yeah,
They want to feel like you actually care about them, and be yourself. You really have to be yourself, because you cannot sustain being fake.
yeah,
That's not sustainable. But being yourself is sustainable, because you will always be you,
yeah,
and no one can be you. You can only be the best of you. And so,
yeah,
and improve, learn from it. I remember when my very early videos, I was actually watching Marquis Brownlee reacting to his like old video when he was like a little boy
Yeah, I
who
saw
pulled
his
the
very first video. I was like, that
yeah.
guy.
That was so encouraging to me though, because I see where where I started. I go back to my old videos and I cringe. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I used to say a lot of and and my wife would tell me, hey man.
I'm like that too. I
Yeah.
mean, and trust me, like I said, I talk to people about, that's part of what
Yeah.
I do is showing people how they could use video and talk to them about really starting to use video in their brand and
Yeah.
marketing. But you get that, oh, I don't like being on camera. I'm
Yeah.
shy. I'm like, well, you don't always have to be on camera, but that is something that you're gonna have to work through because
Yeah.
people want to connect with you, and it's the
Yeah.
best way that people can,
It
outside of
really
being there.
does. Yeah,
You
because I
know,
remember when I first started out, I would look at other people who are doing like tutorials when it came to like Unreal Engine, and I wanted to copy them, because I saw they were being successful. But for me, as personally, like just me, Solomon, when I meet like learn something new, it cracks me up, and then I light up. When I get excited about something, I truly get excited and I can't believe it. And so I was like, you know what, let me just be myself, and so I started doing that in my tutorials. So if something is funny, I laugh at it. If it blows my mind, I react to it. If it like messes my
yeah,
mind, I'm like, man, I can't figure this out. And sometimes people will tell me, oh, your videos are very long, but I'm like, I really believe in process.
yeah,
And things that people don't leave out is the failure. I want people to see where you failed,
yeah,
because those are the things that people encounter
yeah,
daily. Like, how do I go out of this failure right here?
yeah,
And if I leave that out, all I do is just the tutorial. People are gonna fail, and then they will come back
yeah.
and they say, why did I fail here? Yeah,
Well, I mean, I think that's so key, and I think that's what you know makes people want to follow you. That you're open with your failures just as much as you are your successes, and that's any successful person will tell you that's where they learn the most,
yeah,
from their failures. So if I don't show
absolutely.
you the failures or tell you about the failures, you're not going to
Mhm.
learn, and
Yeah, and recently I did like a short film. It was inspired by the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And so I used I put on my motion capture suit. I did the mock-up really well. I played the character of the King of the Apes, and everything was great, but the audio was horrible. And I was like, ah, my gosh. So I posted it and I almost pulled it down because the negative comments were so many. Like, guys just talked about the audio being trash and all that. I'm like, I was like, you know what? Let me leave this video up because I want to show how I grow.
yeah,
I want to show that I've actually improved. And someone had actually, one of the people that came in the comments that was hardest on me said, you need to work with a sound producer. You don't have to do everything yourself. And he told me, you have such a large following. Surely there's someone out there in this group of your followers who is a sound producer. I had to swallow, the
yeah,
pride. And I was like, okay. And everything in me, everything in you as a creator wants to defend the art that you've
yeah,
created.
yeah,
But that's an opportunity to grow, like to actually listen and see what someone is saying. And I
yeah,
listened. And I actually went back and I found a sound producer and I
yeah,
redid the audio, which sounds so much better. I haven't put up the new short film yet because I want to do hair on the
yeah,
characters and the chimpanzee characters, but it sounds so much better. And I am grateful for that gentleman that posted that comment.
yeah, yeah. And that's, I mean, that's something that as a creator you're gonna have to, what do they say, develop thick skin, because there's always going to
Yes.
be people that have negative thoughts or negative comments, but you know how
Yeah.
to pick out good constructive
Yes.
criticism from the ones that are just being malicious about it.
Yeah.
um and that's how, like you said, you grow, I try to do that myself, which is why I tell people why I love live, because I can't hide the mistakes that I make. They just,
Yeah.
people see them. So I
Yeah.
say I love, obviously I love, recorded video content. I love video,
Mhm.
animation and stuff like that. But I also love live, and that's what live has really taught me, that hey, things go wrong, you roll with it.
Yeah.
And if you're authentic and true to who you are, your audience will be pretty forgiving, with
Yeah.
you on those
Yes.
things, on those rough things. Your real audience will be pretty forgiving on those rough moments that you have because they
Yeah.
see you going through this progression. And I tell
Yeah.
people, I'm not the I'm not the best interviewer. I'm definitely not, you know, Phil Donahue or Oprah Winfrey or any of them as far as interviewing. I don't consider myself a podcaster, but I've learned a lot
Yeah.
through this whole process. And I've grown. And if you look at my very first one, like you said, I cringe when I look at my very first,
Yeah.
video of the show. But I've grown. And that's just as you become consistent with something, you're just naturally going to get better at it. And you're going to
Yeah.
learn better tools and techniques and things that you can do. So as a
Absolutely.
creator, I try and embrace that, and that's what I try and tell people as a creator to embrace. You just learn, and you're always going
Yeah.
to be learning and getting better. And there's always going to
Yeah.
be somebody that does it better than you, and there's always going to be
Absolutely.
somebody that's worse at
Yeah.
at an earlier stage than you.
Yeah.
So this everybody's got their own race.
Yeah.
Everybody
And
runs
you
their
can
own
never,
race.
because when you meet someone, there's this lesson that I learned in life is that people's harvest seasons are not going to line up.
Yeah,
You could have planted something, right? And your seed may just be now coming out of the ground. And then you meet someone who's harvesting. You don't know the path that they took to
yeah,
get to that, but you can't try to be that because you have not gone through the process. Allow yourself to go through the process so you can be a better creator. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And 9 times out of 10, if you're humble and you ask them questions about, okay,
Mm.
how did you get your crop like this, or how did you get it to do? They'll show you. A
Yeah.
successful person will you normally have no problem with showing you the
Yeah.
path of how they got there and the bumps that
I,
you can,
I have like five people that I definitely want to like give a shout out.
give a shout out.
Whenever I get online, there are people that have really poured into me, and at different stages of my life. Right, first of all, with the Arunugo Vinji, that Indian gentleman that gave me a chance for industrial training, and then when I first Ray Ronaldo, you know, Raybom, he
Yeah.
was my classmate at this Montgomery College. We worked together at Cornerstone. He introduced me to 3ds Max. So I owe my early introduction to 3D modeling to him. So Ray, wherever you are, man, I'm so grateful to you. And then there's uh, Nelson Hurst. I met him at Camber, a company, a defense contractor. I think he's the first black man that really showed me excellence. Like, man, he took me to task. He never spoon fed me. He would tell me
Mm,
that, guy, man, I am not going to spoon feed you, Solomon. He would give me an idea of how something is done and then say, go, run with it. And he told me organization. Like, when I'm working in teams, I get like really particular when it comes to folder
yeah.
naming. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because I used to be so disorganized until I met Nelson. He told me how to name things, and I'm like, my gosh, why are you so hard on me, man? He's like, you got, people are not gonna do this for you. You gotta actually be able. If you're working with a team, you have to be organized so that when someone comes after you, they know where to find things,
Yeah.
right? And then there's my boss my former boss at Florio, VJ, he really believed in me because he brought me on as an art director. But one thing that he did for me is that at the end of the day, he told me, I'm giving you leeway to actually work on your animated series. So at the end of the day, we had these amazing machines. He will allow me to actually, I'd never had anyone do that for me at a job where you're doing your job. And when you're done with the job, they tell me, use our equipment to
Yeah.
do
Do your
animation
own
for your
thing.
own scene.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and it was there that I actually learned how to program an Android app, and that's where the Nkosa Nancha app first started out to be. Is that at that job with another gentleman called Ali. He was a programmer at Florio Tech at the time, and he also poured into me. initially I did not, when you learn people, when you're working with people, you don't understand them until when you realize they actually have your best interest at heart. He really poured into me and opened up those doors. So there've been so many people that have come up that I've encountered, like it's amazing to give back. And even on my YouTube channel, I'm always thanking people. I'm always reminding people that I'm praying for them, and
Yeah.
I'm also reminding people to not to give up on their dreams, because I remember how people poured into me and encouraged me to pursue my dream as well.
Yeah. No, that is. Well, wait. Before I walk away from that, I definitely have to drop a bomb on that one. Yeah, that was some nuggets there. That was a bomb there.
Yeah,
Definitely, it is so important to have supportive people around you, or people that really sow into you. Because, like you said, you know you may think you get it from your family, you might not get it from your family. You may get it from your friends, you may get it from a teacher or something like that. But there's always, always try to find and surround yourself around those people that are really gonna uplift you. And like
yeah,
you said, got your best interests at heart, aren't gonna try and blow smoke up your butt, but are gonna try and give you the real and encourage you along
yeah.
the way to do that. That is so important. Everybody, again, just man, like I said, the time rolls by so quick.
Oh my gosh.
We're already an hour and a half into this, and we hadn't even I hadn't even scratched the surface of all the questions that I was wanting to ask.
Yeah.
But definitely want to dive into a little bit, if you don't mind, Solomon, going a little bit, a little bit. You're a freelancer, and one, you've done a lot of different things. Is there one discipline or one thing that you like doing more than the other, like animating, storyboarding, directing? I mean, is there one thing that kind of you love doing more than the other, or is it the creation process as a whole that really excites
Yeah.
you?
I think for me, it's because I'm an all-rounder. So I have the ability to take an idea from concept, like drawing it,
Yeah,
to the storyboarding, to the animatic, to the modeling, to the texturing, to the rigging, to the animation, to the final render, and so you name it. I'm able to do all of that. And so I love the process. And I also love working with other people that are specialists in certain areas, because I know I can't do everything. And especially when it comes to the adventures of Nkosa and Nancha, that's why I love working with the team that I work with at Soul Studios. Yes, I do freelance work, but anytime that you have like a dream, you in it, I think most of the time it's going to be that you don't have the money up front, to fund that dream. So you have to find a way to either do a part-time job or even a full-time job until this dream takes off. And so because I've wanted for the long time to develop like a big team. I've had to learn the whole process, because then I know which people to hire, in the process. And so
yeah,
anytime that they bring me in as an expert, I know to just be plugged in. It's almost like a Lego piece to just
yeah.
boom, and then you're part of it, because you can put me anywhere and I'm able to do that. The only thing that I can't do is I can't sing. I wish I could. Yeah.
Oh man, but that
Man, if
is.
I could sing, oh boy. Watch out, world.
But
Yeah.
just that. But like you said, in some respects, I mean, it's great being a generalist and kind of knowing the pipeline. But at some point, it gets to, and that's kind of like this thing that I think about and have struggled with. At some point, especially if you want to scale up and kind of grow, you're going to have to
Yeah,
remove yourself from the day to day
absolutely.
things
Yeah.
and bring in a team to handle the things that you don't need to be handling. Is
Yeah.
that in the long run something that? Because I think about it is like, do I want to be a creative, or do I want to
Mhm.
be that type of person that I still like getting my hands into the things?
Yeah.
Type of
I, you know, I think I am a lot like James Cameron. because James Cameron is a tinkerer, he's an inventor, he's an
Yeah,
artist. He draws his own sketches and all the things like that. But he's still a director, and he works with companies like ILM and Weta and things like
yeah,
that, right? But he's involved in the process. That's what I love to do. That kind of workflow, because I want to be in the trenches. I want to be there. I don't just want to be like a CEO
yeah,
removed from the process. I want to
yeah.
be in the trenches because that's where the fun is, in the
The fun
creation.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I tell my friend. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I know you have to go through as a business owner and an entrepreneur, you
Yeah.
have to know the business side of
Yeah.
things and go through, do all the business stuff. But there's a
Yeah.
part of you that you just love creating, and that's where
Yeah.
you love to play and love to, like you said,
Yeah.
that's where the fun is at for you,
Yeah.
as a creator. So I always find it interesting how others are doing it, because I know, like I said, for me, that's the challenging thing of, okay, I know I love creative, but as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, as a business person, you have to learn that to
Yeah.
be able to run it and run a
Absolutely.
business. So
Yeah.
always the crazy part.
Yeah. But I've,
Everybody,
I've
no, go ahead, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I've learned to seed ground when I see someone better than me who's gonna bring value to the team.
Yeah,
Because and as much as I may want to draw every comic book in our series, I've also come to recognize that there's value in diversity in terms of the art style.
yeah,
Like once we pick a comic book and we have a series, then get an artist that's gonna take that style on consistently for the period of time that you want.
yeah,
But I might come in initially and draw the initial sketches to give them an idea,
yeah,
but then I need to let them go.
yeah.
And once they start drawing, just let them actually be creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually that's, basically how comic books flow. I mean, there's
Yeah.
Batman has had a ton of different artists, but there's
Yes.
always like one people like Frank Miller's version of Batman, other people like this version of Batman. So different artists, different writers bring in their own flavor of the character.
Yeah.
And I think that just makes it better, for the most part. Experimenting in different things and keeps you from being formulaic. I think that I always thought that was kind of Tyler Perry's little
Mhm.
drawback. He had to write everything, and now he's
Yeah.
starting to get other writers in to bring other stories in. But that was always his thing.
Yeah.
He had to be the writer of it. Bring in
I
other
think,
people.
yeah, I think the
Bring in
value
other
of
stories.
yeah, the value of being the idea, like the ideation, like being like the source of the concept. Because I remember I was reading an article about James Cameron. He was being sued by someone who had created characters that look like the Navi, and he said,
Oh
"You
yeah, I
stole
think I
our
read that.
yeah."
Yeah, I think I
You
read
stole
that.
our idea. Now, had James Cameron not saved that sketch that he had done of those people that he had drawn way back in
Yeah,
time, people would have sued him saying that you took
yeah,
our idea. So
yeah,
I think that's why I love being part of the process. Like when I have an idea and I know it's going to be part of the business structure, I really like to draw it, sketch it, and then pass it on to the team, but knowing that there will always be a record
yeah.
of that
That
initial
where
idea.
the
Yeah.
origin came from. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Always, that's a great idea too, as well, for sure. So I hope you pick up on that. Um, Man, I could sit here. We could just chat for hours, Solomon. It really could. I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep this definitely at 2 hours. Definitely got to bring you back on, Solomon, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. Like I said, I do want to get through. Um, which I was did want to kind of touch on. Like I said, you are doing a lot of, you're freelancing now. The industry, how has it been for you, and what's the kind of the best advice that you would give somebody now coming into the industry at this point, when it's kind of going through its kind of turbulent kind of little time. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think the advice that I'll give people, especially if you're trying to break into the industry right now, is there are remote opportunities more than they were before, right? So I would encourage people to first of all invest in a good machine, because someone might find you like online, offer you an opportunity, but if you don't have the hardware, then they will pass.
yeah,
They'll be like, we can't bring you into the office, but you're thousands of miles away, but we want to work with you, but you don't have the ability to do the work. So invest in a good machine and then that's when the opportunities will open up. And I've been fortunate to have like these machines that I use here. It has made it possible for me to work remotely. I've worked with companies in Europe. I
Yeah.
just actually finished a commercial with a company in France, and it was about like animating robots. We actually
Mm.
we Yeah, there was a robot that was inspired by Chappie that another company modeled it, and then they passed it on to me to animate, and the commercial was aired in France,
Oh,
in Paris.
nice, nice.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's opportunity.
yeah, and just to, like I said, kind of throw out to people, what's your kind of hardware setup as far as system and
Yeah, so man, so you see my hesitation
yeah.
because mine is not like a typical
Yeah,
setup.
it's got to be if you're doing stuff like that, and that's where,
Yeah,
like I said, for let's kind of take it down for the person
yes,
that's just coming
yeah,
in, a
yeah,
student that, like I said, okay, I want to learn 3D, but I may not be able to afford Maya, or I'm not a
yeah,
student, I can't get the student version, so I'm gonna grab Blender. What would be
yeah.
kind of an
So
entryway
yeah, for
system that they could, get up and running and kind of get into it with?
Yeah. So for Blender, I mean, right now a good thing is that machine, specs and prices are going down. Even back then, I remember when the 3090 was rare. Like you couldn't even find a 3090 card because people were
Yeah.
mining, bitcoins and whatever, right?
Yeah, everybody's doing crypto then.
Yeah. And the 3090 card is still a really good card, right? But it's
Mm,
much cheaper now. So if you can get an i7, Pentium that has a minimum of at least 16 to 32 gigabytes of RAM with a 3090 card and an SSD card with about 2 terabytes of space. If you want to get into the Unreal Engine, because there are opportunities that are coming up or online for remote work, you definitely need an SSD card with a lot of space because Unreal Engine takes up a chunk of space once you start creating those projects. So something like that will be conducive to doing. Like Blender doesn't require a lot of like power to operate,
yeah,
but
horsepower, yeah.
but but if you're going to render using cycles,
Cycles
that's where,
and
yeah,
yeah.
GPU comes in, because this project that I did in the company in France, I actually rendered in Blender,
Mm,
completely in Blender using cycles. All the shots were rendered in Blender, and the machine that I have made a huge difference. Iteration, I have a 6000 ADA. It's an RTX that has 48 gigabytes of RAM on it.
yeah.
That's the card. Yeah.
Wow.
40. So it makes it so
48
much
gigs.
exactly. Yeah.
Jesus.
And so that one again was a blessing from a company called Puget Systems.
Yeah,
The
Fusion Systems, yeah.
Yeah, I call them Puget, but it's
Puget,
Puget Systems.
Puget,
Yeah.
Puget, yeah.
And this is the thing, when you have an idea, you'll be amazed at how opportunities can come up if you can show samples of what you've done. Because I approached Project System and said, guys, I have this animated series that I'm working on. I don't have a big budget. Is there any way you can support me so I can actually show how your hardware has made a difference? Right. And they blessed me with a machine, a souped up machine that I, I really can't even say the price,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
but it,
I can, because I've checked out Fusion Systems. And like I said, and I always
yeah,
said if I was gonna get a serious system, like I said,
yeah,
one, I'm an I love Apple, only
yeah,
because at the time, like I said, when I was learning like 3D, I was like Saltimage, I was on a
yeah,
Windows system. I think I was
right.
running Windows NT at the time, but I just didn't like Windows because it was just drivers. I had to download this driver. It was just Apple is easy. You plug in a drive, it shows up.
Yeah,
It may not be like I realized that okay, if I was going to get a serious uh video editing system, if I was a serious video editor and a serious animator, yeah, I'd go to Puget Systems and get a Windows
yeah.
system to run it. You know,
Absolutely. And actually, yeah, on the bottom of my YouTube channel, like the videos,
yeah,
I have a link of the specs of the machine that I use. So if anyone is curious, just go to any of my videos and look at right below where I say I render my machine using the project system. These are the specs. And if you want a starting point, they have like different tiers of
Yeah,
it.
different tiers. Yeah,
Yeah, so if you don't if you're on a budget, they'll walk you through it.
yeah,
And I am proudly I told them that, guys, you because you've changed my life, I will probably talk about the work that you've done and how you've
yeah,
helped me. Because they really came out with no strings attached at the time, and they decided they wanted to support the series because I told them that we're trying to preserve the cultural heritage and the
yeah,
languages of my country, and they bought into it. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that, and that brings up another great point that you just brought up. All you did was ask.
Yes.
And my mother used to tell me all the time, a closed mouth don't get fed. So if you don't ask, you're not going to know one way or the other. And 9 times out of 10, if you approach them and
Hmm.
just say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Is there any way that you would like to support or can support what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Simple as that. They'll, say yes or no. And 9 times out of 10, if it's a good thing and you approach them in the right way, they're going to want to get behind you because they
They
know
did.
you're going to promote their system,
Yeah.
just doing it. So I think that's a great testament. And it's what I look at when I go out to talk to potential sponsors for the show. Is this something that, you would want to get behind? Talking
Yeah.
about diversity, you have to be able to get behind what it is I'm trying to
Yeah.
do, type of thing. So that's amazing. And trust me, like I said, I knew when I was ready to invest in a system, like a good video editing system and animation system, I knew Puget Sounds is like,
Yeah. Because
everybody
I
goes to
had
Puget Sound system.
I had gone to Dell. I no, not Dell. I'd gone to Best Buy, and I had like an off-the-shelf machine,
uh,
and it had worked for a while, right? And then I got into the Unreal Engine, and it kept crashing.
oh
Man,
yeah.
you can cast the Unreal Engine if you're not careful, Like
Oh man.
seriously. But the machine changed my. There was the life
Yeah.
before the Puget system and the life
Yeah.
after the
No.
Puget system.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because I've heard a bunch of people say, "Man, when you get really serious, it's amazing the difference you notice in the
Hmm.
speed and how you work and sit and render stuff out when you got a really good
Yeah.
system
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to really
Absolutely.
kick out stuff." So I feel you, brother. I've definitely working to get that where to get there myself. And another thing I like about Puget System is they tailor your system to what
Yes.
you're doing.
Yeah.
So if you're a video editing system or a DaVinci Resolve, if that's your software, you tell them and they'll build a system that really
Exactly.
is tailored towards
Yeah.
DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah. Because my machine was, they built it specifically to work with the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Like that's how good it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this was my thought, and maybe you could answer that because you do use other software.
Yes.
So my thing was, I don't just do, and this was one of the
Yeah.
questions that I wanted to ask one of the reps there, because I
Yeah.
don't just use my system just for Blender. I use it
Yeah.
for,
So
DaVinci. I use it
yeah,
for other things. So
this is the benefit is that if a machine can handle the Unreal Engine without crashing, you know,
it's pretty much going to cut through everything else.
everything. Yeah, because I mean, like this, the card that I have right now,
Mm,
when I take it to Octane in rendering in 3ds Max, oh my gosh, it's like night and day, and in cycles, it works miraculously. So anyway,
wow. Okay.
yeah,
Well, I'm definitely going to have to tap your brain into, like I said, Puget Systems. I've been, like I
yeah,
said,
yeah,
I've had them bookmarked for a
yeah,
while because I knew when I was ready to put together my serious system, I was going to have them build it for sure,
yeah.
um, as well. Um, guys, like I said, I hope everybody's been enjoying this as much as I have.
Mm.
Definitely, I'm trying to be respectful. We're coming up on 2 hours here. This is a 2 hour marathon for sure, but definitely one that I've enjoyed. I hope you've gotten some great value out of it. And definitely, if you're just joining or you're going to catch this on the replay, make sure you go back through because Solomon gave a lot of great nuggets about YouTube, how to kind of leverage YouTube if you're trying to build your channel. I know I was taking notes and going to go back through this myself and watch it. Uh, Also, system wise, what kind of system, who to check out, and all this stuff will be in the show notes as well, for sure. Definitely, and I don't want to get away from here without showing some of Solomon's work, because he does some amazing work, which both professionally and personally I love, for sure. What are you, like I said, you love Unreal? What are some of the other softwares, like for your digital artwork? Do you use
Yeah.
Procreate? What are some of the softwares
So
that you enjoy
that's
using?
fun fact, the picture that you just shown was drawn on a cell phone.
Oh,
So
wow.
I used my Samsung Note and with a wand to draw that. And so I love using Sketchbook Pro, which is
Yeah,
available now. It used to be Adobe,
yeah.
and they made it free. Now you can use it free, and it's an app on Android and also available on iOS. So yeah, I draw a lot of. I Of course I use colored pencils a
Yeah,
lot.
I always
Uh,
like the tradition. I mean, something about going
yeah,
back to pen and pencil. I mean, it's
yeah.
you can't get any
There's
more
something
natural.
organic about it, and
Yeah,
I'm weird like that because I like the smell of pencil. It's
yeah,
like
yeah. No, you have to be
like
a
when I
true.
sharpen it. Yeah,
Yeah, you have to be a kind of really original artist to appreciate just the simplicity of sharpening your own
yeah,
pencil and just drawing, sitting down and drawing. I miss that a
yeah.
lot for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
Definitely
Oh, I have
discussing.
something really fun about this. So, if you are an like a freelancer out there and you're looking for different opportunities, like this particular sketch, um, I had to sign some NDA, but it was bought by a company, and this was something that I drew just for fun. I was just sketching in my book because, again, I love robotics. I love things that are like sci-fi like,
Yeah.
but someone saw this online and they offered to buy. And when they saw that I had made a series of it, that gave me an additional source of income out of it. So if you're out there, just keep drawing and keep showing your work, because you never know which is gonna like pique someone's interest. They might see
Yeah.
that and say, we want, something like that. And they took this, and then they offered, because I have a studio called Soul Studios. They bought the concept art, and then they gave me the contract to produce a 3D model out of it.
Mm,
So they, of
yeah.
course, they get to own everything.
Everything.
I no
Yeah.
longer, I no longer own that. I can just show it,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
own it
But
anymore.
other
Yeah,
work came out of that, just like I said,
exactly.
opportunity of it.
Yeah,
And that's why I tell people, and I try and do it myself, because I know as you post work on your channels, trust me, the people that are buying that work are doing the same thing. They're surfing the internet looking for
yeah,
creators. So as
yeah.
you're posting work consistently, they're going to see your work and reach out to you if it's something
Yes,
that fits what they need. So that's
yeah.
why you have to be consistent about just posting and being active on whatever channel that is you choose to do.
Yeah, and something else that is so important, guys. So I was shocked when that job that I did for the company in France. They sent me a link to my own video, and they said, "Hey, we've seen you do this video. Can you do something like that for us?" Right? But I remember the video when they sent it to me. There was there was a comment that I had seen, I had read in the as feedback. People watch the videos and they give you feedback,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, my goodness, had I replied negatively to that comment, even if it really triggered me, had I replied negatively, this person went to that video and look,
Mm,
this came out, an opportunity came out of this. And I'm sure they didn't just look at the video, they went into the comment section
Comments
to
to see
see
what people were saying.
how are
Yeah.
you treating people? How are you
Yeah.
interacting with people? Can we work with this person?
Yeah.
It's not just about the content, but it's also how well they can work with you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you made another great point, um, is how well they interact with their audience, because I've seen some creators, you can go through their comments, they may post the first one, but they're not responding back to people's comments, or even if they're great comments, hey, I like your work, they don't respond back, thank you. They just
Yeah.
post it. So there are some creators and some people that are really active about engaging with their audience. You can kind of tell that it's them, engaging with it and commenting back. There's nothing. I just I just made a post on a video of a guy I follow. He uses Blender for motion graphics, and he had posted a short video showing this little tip on this process he learned. He was just
Yeah.
showing, and I had commented, wow, I love this video, I learned this, and I asked him a question. He responded back. So it's those things that mean a lot,
Yeah.
where the creator responds back. And it's even more shocking when the person's an even higher influencer person. Like I said, and he was on the show, and I don't know if you ever heard of Chris Doe, but he's a big influencer, and he does a lot of creative videos on teaching creatives how to be better business people, type of thing. But he was a big influencer, and I went after. I was always commenting on his posts and following his messages, because he gave out really great information and really great content. And so I would always occasionally ask him to be on the show. He would always respond back to comments, and he's that type of person that he's pretty active on his social. You can see him responding back to people that post stuff. He doesn't respond to everybody, but the majority of the people, you'll see him, if he's got a thing to say, to respond back to what they're saying, he'll respond back. And like I said, he just responded. I asked him, hey, he made a post. I like the post. Still would love to have you on the show, type of thing. He responded back, okay, let's do it. And you just, as long as you're engaged with people and really, just be true with your audience, that you're, not a jerk, and you're not just mining them for subscribers and monetary, they're going to support you and follow you.
And be kind.
Yeah.
Like kindness goes a long way, because sometimes someone might come and like share like a comment on your channel or your YouTube channel on one of your videos, and they might have had like a frustrating day. You could literally change their day if you like responded kindly to them, because people, when they're angry, when you respond angrily, it just goes downhill,
it just escalates from that point. You're just going back and forth. And like you said, you just never know who's looking at your post. You just never know who sees your post. And what may come out of it. So that's why I think it's just imperative that you share. And that's something I try and do. I try and just share. I'm trying to get better at it, because I know from there opportunities come out of people just seeing what you do. Absolutely. I love this because I love like traditional artwork. So this is a great piece. For sure.
Yeah, and I love a lot of my influences are from nature, because when I was growing up in Uganda, nature was my canvas. Like that's where I went out into the woods and drew everything that I could find. I drew. I would take my sketchbook with me and draw every insect that I could find out there. And so when I got into like ZBrush, for example, it was like a natural, like being able to draw,
well,
using
is it
Dynamite.
daunting for you jumping or learning a lot of different apps? And I ask this because, like you said, as a generalist, you learn a lot of different things, but it's tough learning. It's tough learning just one app, or really getting proficient is just unreal. But for you, jumping around the different apps and whether it's ZBrush, whether it's a storyboarding app, or whether it's an AI tool, for you, is that part of what fuels you, being able to learn different apps? Because not everybody, like I said, has the bandwidth to kind of learn a lot of different
because
tools.
I think working as a director and creative director for a couple of studios, you have to wear multiple hats in a sense. You have to understand the people that you're working with, the teams that you're working with. So if I'm working with a team of artists, I need to understand what the concept artist is going through, what the texture artist, the rigger, the people who are going to be doing the, even just things like animatics,
Yeah.
things like that. So for me, I'm always drawing. I'm always drawing because you never know when that idea will come up, but also drawing different styles of things, not just nature, but when I see a cloud, I'll actually go and draw whatever inspiration that is coming from. Like that illustration you just put on the screen, that is influences of me growing up from Uganda, because we used to go hunting for birds with catapults that would make out of like the rubber inner rubber tubes of a car, right? You find like an old rubber tube,
Yeah.
you make like that elastic, and then so when I'm thinking of this character, I'm thinking of those stones that have hit that absorbent shield from the, it's like a catapult war, it's things like that. But also there are influences of Asterix and Obelix, that which is a comic book I grew up reading when I was in
Yeah.
Uganda.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Asterix
so
and
it's up
Obelisk. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, those Romans that they used to fight all the time.
Oh man, it's amazing where inspiration comes from. Like I said, obviously you're passionate about your heritage, Ugandan heritage. What are some of the stories that you're wanting to tell? I think we're starting to see a lot of Afrofuturism come from
Hmm.
Africa and futuristic style stories. We got Uwaju, we got, Kizazi Moto. We've had a
Yeah.
lot of different styles, kind of the futuristic style and things like that. What are some of the stories that you're kind of wanting to kind of tell?
Yeah, so the stories that I'm really trying to tell through the adventures of Nkoza and Nancha have to do with folk tales that we grew up listening to from our grandparents. Because my grandmother, again, she would tell the same story multiple times, but in different ways, and always have a new moral tied to it, right? So she would use like hair, which you have as Bugs Bunny here,
Yeah.
right? And she would like wrap a story around it based on like a folktale that you're very familiar with, but then find a way of teaching you a lesson. Like you shouldn't step on a snake. You know, that seems like straightforward. Like,
Yeah, you would think.
yeah, if you step on a snake, do you know where to step on it? Right? It's like you don't step on the tail. Things like that.
Oh
But
man.
and things like, why does the elephant have a long nose? Right? Was it being nosy? Was it because it was being pulled by the alligator or the crocodile? But it's like there are so many morals that are built into the different folktales that we have. So the characters that I have created together with my team is they're going on a journey back to Uganda, and they've lived in the diaspora for a long time, but now they're meeting other Ugandan kids and other Ugandan grandparents, and they are learning those stories from the
Mm,
perspective of you having lived in the diaspora. And then when they learn the stories, they write to their friend who is based in the diaspora, who is African American, and that's how they are learning the language. So I'm trying to recapture that oral tradition experience that I grew up with my grandmother teaching me those stories, and using art and animation to convey that same message.
yeah, no, and I highly suggest everybody go to his YouTube channel. Again, all this information is going to be up on show notes. Definitely check out some of the episodes. They're really well done, and the story and the animations
Yeah.
are really well done. So I'm looking forward to future Umkoza and Nacha um, series even more. So definitely support him. You can go to his YouTube channel, Solomon Jagwe. He's on Facebook, on Instagram, Patreon. Support him. X. If you want to go to the series, there's the link. The link again. All these links will be in the show notes. There is a language app. So what are you with the app and the comic book and series? When you created this series, did you have all these other things that you wanted to do in mind, or was it initially, okay, I just want to do an animation.
Yeah, oh, man. So when I first came up with the idea, we had just had our first child with my wife, and she really wanted like some content that she could use to teach her kids about my language.
Mm,
And so that was the first like early stages of creating the app. And I didn't even have in mind that I would build a world, that was gonna be around Koza and Nanja. But I drew one sketch, and there was these two kids. They have just found a book, and the book is filled with these fantastic stories, and it's in set in Africa. And that was the first sketch of it. And out of that grew the app, started as a language app, and my wife was able to use that. And also then I started speaking with parents here in the diaspora who are of African descent, and mainly from Uganda. And I had the same story. They don't have the resources to teach their kids our language,
mm,
because for the longest time our language was not written. It was
yeah,
all oral. We never had like libraries where you could go read a book
really.
about all those folk tales and how to read and write the languages. So I had to find a way to make it fun for the kids. And what I was fortunate that my wife is a teacher.
Yeah,
She teaches pre-K here in Virginia, and so she was an amazing resource of showing me how to just like narrow things down, simplify them for a child,
child.
so that and so once, and also she has helped me realize, what things make fun, like makes kids laugh, what
Yeah,
bring joy to them. And then out of that, we started creating a world, and even the early versions of the characters don't look like what we have right now.
no,
But
no.
once we created the comic book series, I went back and just cast away all the original designs of the 3D models, and we based all the characters on the comic book series, because we
Um,
wanted them to have the same rules, on the world that
yeah.
had the same rules. Yeah.
Now, is your wife from Uganda as well, or is
No,
she? Okay.
she's African American.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So your kids are bilingual then?
they're true African Americans.
Oh, okay. So but are they able to? I'm pretty sure they don't picked up on that. Wait, it's hard when you're born here. It's hard to let it go.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
but
they are. So
okay,
the language. I mean, it's not easy,
yeah, it's
because
not easy language.
yeah,
Doesn't seem like it.
once they become teenagers, it's a challenge to try to teach them like a language, because you go through that phase of independence. But they've done their best to learn. Like every time we go to bed, I try to say goodbye to them in my language. I try to say I love you in my
Yeah,
language. So those things stay with them. Counting in the language, and the names of the different fruits and
yeah,
vegetables and things like that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a. I think it's such an important thing. Really. Um, we over here, African Americans that were born here, we have to take a different. We have to be
No,
intentional if we want to
that's an
learn.
inside. Yeah, that's an inside joke I have with my kids, because my wife is African American and I'm African,
You know,
and so. But you know what's
but you
amazing
could
is that
technically say you're African American because you were born in Africa. I mean, we've had that low. I mean, us
yeah,
over here have had that discussion about why should we be call ourselves African American when we've never
yes,
been to Africa, but we're
yeah,
doing it. We're calling ourselves that because that's where our descent is from. That's
and
where we figure our descent is from.
I think that's why it's so important to know your roots. I remember that movie called Roots.
Yeah,
I have a funny. There's something funny that I saw. So I went to the theaters and I was watching Amistad. Have you watched
yeah.
Amistad?
I've seen Amistad. Yeah, with
Okay,
Jaimin
okay.
Hunsu.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so I went to watch Amistad, and then I was in the back, and then I had this one of the slaves speak my language, and he says, "Ngwatako, Manyira." I was like, my goodness, did I just hear a slave speaking my language? So after the movie was done, I stayed to see the credits, and sure enough, there was a Ugandan actor in there. And then I went back and retraced, and of course, the slave trade. We
yeah,
did have Arabs, trading slaves from
yeah.
Uganda, but it was so
Uganda.
cool that they actually in America. Here I am in America, and there's a slave, speaking
Oh
my
man,
language.
oh man. No, but I think
Yeah.
it's such an important thing, especially for kids and their parents are, from a
Yeah.
different continent to learn
Yeah.
that part. I mean, they're going to get enough of Americanized
Yeah.
just being here. So I think it's important. Like I said, we are we're gonna bring this train in, and we're gonna because it's
Yeah.
been a long ride, 2 hours for sure. But definitely, I will be bringing Solomon back, and hopefully he'll want to come back to the show because there is a lot of stuff that definitely we didn't get a chance to dive into. But again, all his contact information and the stuff that we talked about on the show, this episode will be in the playlist there. As always, I appreciate everybody that supports the show. Mr. Paul, appreciate that, my brother. Salute to you. He appreciated you there, Solomon. Jeff, you're my guy there for sure. Asterix and Obelisk. That was a good comic strip. I used to like that.
Yeah.
Yes, me too. Great art, Solomon. For sure. Definitely, that's the reason I do these episodes is hopefully to bring you, the viewer, some knowledge, some entertainment, but just good food for thought that you can chew on. And definitely, like I said, if you just came in or if you're catching this on the replay, definitely take the time to go through this episode because Solomon did drop a lot of great knowledge, especially on YouTube, and really leveraging that platform. So super, super excited to have you back on soon. Solomon, I cannot thank you enough, brother, for one, connecting and being a part of the Color of Motion family, but two, coming on and really giving value and sharing of your skills with the audience. So I can't thank you enough, Solomon, for doing that.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Again, if you could, Solomon, hang out in the green room for just once. I know we've been on here a while, but if you could hang out for just 1 second while I close out the show so I can holler at you, I'd appreciate it. But again, everybody, please help me thank, again, my guest and friend, Solomon and Jagwe, for coming on and really sharing. Hang out for just a second, Solomon, while I close it out.
Okay.
Oh man, this was a great one. Like I said, I didn't get to half the questions I wanted to because we were all over the place. But Solomon gave a lot of great information. Mr. Jeff, appreciate you there, brother. You have a great weekend. I'm definitely going to get with you, man, because I want to bring you back sometime in season 5. So definitely going to be shouting out with you. But again, thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. You're the ones that help make this show what it is, along with the guests and friends that come on. I cannot do this without you. So I can't thank you enough for giving me a little bit of your time every week, for sure. And like I said, this quarter is rolling along, and we're just motoring through it and having some great fun before we kick off season 5 next year. We still got a few more weeks left in this last quarter. Today was a great episode. Next week is going to be just as good as well. Everybody, please make sure that you tune in next week for my next guest, Mr. Douglas Sweeper, animator, graphic designer. He's going to come on and share his journey as well. So I definitely don't want you to miss out on any of that. Man, it's been a great episode today. I'm pumped. This always energizes me after I do an episode, I tell you. And it was a great one for sure. Wow. So with all of that, like I said, next week is going to be a great one. Me and Douglas are going to be sitting down having a great conversation. You all have a great rest of the weekend and a great rest of the week. Have a productive one as well. I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.